Welcome back to Proxy, everybody. And today I have Mike with me all the way from Malta, and we have him on the channel today to discuss his Guardian Battle Host list, which he's had a lot of success with against Chaos Knights, which are one of the biggest bads of 10th edition currently, along with Imperial Knights. How you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. Glad to hear you're well. So, little bit of background. You reached out to me a couple weeks ago, wanted to talk to me about your experience against Chaos Knights, one of the, kind of more stat check big dogs right now in 40K. We've been hearing a lot about Chaos Knights, Imperial Knights, among some of the other new armies that have come out, just being super strong. However, you had a lot of success against Chaos Knights with a rather unorthodox Guardian Battle Host build, and I wanted to talk to you about that today because it's quite amazing, and I just wanted to get your insight on it. So, let me ask you this first of all. So, what did you kind of do in preparation for this tournament?
Okay, that's a good question. I think there are different kinds of people or certain ways how you can prepare for a tournament. There are those people who, me, for instance, I knew who my opponent is. I knew the layout. I studied his list and I figured also out that the best thing for me is to have assassination and bring it down, because for every knight I kill it's 10 points. So I don't need to focus on secondaries and just focus on the game, killing and primaries. And I think also by planning my deployment, it saved me a lot of time. So what I did is I planned out my whole deployment, where I put, for instance, my striking scorpions, who I put into infiltration, so who for my two guardian units, also where I position everything, and I copied it one-to-one for the game, for the actual game. So when I started, I didn't have to think, I didn't waste the 10 minutes. So I just autopilot deploy my whole army on in game, and it worked very well. And there are also people probably. One example is Australian dude from Malta. He's probably the best Space Marines player on the island. And what he does is he uses Tabletop Simulator and asks other people to play the opponent's list. And for instance, he told me here like 5 games in, playing the list, playing the same layout, and it helped him a lot.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, getting practice on Tabletop Simulator or just setting up your army if you don't have access to that, setting up your army, going through a few turns, your deployment, all that can really help you against these matchups, especially these tougher matchups. So if you guys out there are wondering, well, I've gone against Imperial Knights, I've gone against Chaos Knights, I don't know how to win. I think two of the things that Mike said right there are going to be crucial. Preparation, knowing how far your opponent can move, what their threat ranges are, and where they can get to on the board, knowing how to use your list to stop that from happening. And two, take assassination and bring it down, man. Take those fixed secondaries because it's super easy to score that against the big Chaos Knights, right? The 6 big Chaos Knights, if you kill at least 4 of them in a game, you can get max secondaries.
Yeah. And it takes away the randomness. You don't need to think how to position, how to do things. You just need to play the game, literally kills. It's the easiest thing you can do, probably.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and go through your list here because there's some interesting things about it that, I don't think the community has really given a chance, including myself. I haven't really given some of these units an honest go in this edition. So, why don't we go ahead and go through it? So, do you want to go ahead and take us through your list
Yeah,
and kind of
sure.
explain why you put the units that you did in there?
Of course. Let's start with Azurman. I put him in actually. I played him in my aspect list in my Warhost, but mainly I took him with the Dire Avengers and the Falcon. So after he shoots, he can pop back into the vehicle. And it's the only way in this detachment to make it happen. So he is in. He's also very good in melee. You can use aspect token even to put in the 3 death runes. And he and the Dire Avengers also profit from all the detachment bonus. The +1 to hit on objectives and the stratagem that gives reroll to wounds. So the Falcon is more backup in case the opponent is not on objective, and I need the reroll to wounds, and the reroll to wounds you would always need ideally for Zurman in his unit. So yeah, that's why he's in. Then there's the Autarch with internal pathway. So internal pathway is enhancement that allows you to put 2 guardian units into infiltration, or gives them infiltration, which is very powerful. So usually it's my Storm Guardians unit, either naked or with Autarch. And the second one is the defender unit with the Overwatch enhancement and the Fascia and the DCannon. Then Eldar for +1 to wound and for his extra CP. Then a Fascia with the second enhancement just mentioned, protects out the pass. It allows him on objective free Overwatch on a 4+, which is very powerful, and we can discuss it later when we discuss the game. Then the Solitaire. And the Solitaire, she's very fast, actually, to be honest. And sometimes with Blitz, she can even reach distances like Warp Spiders would do. And she's lone up and she can punch in. So in this game, a small spoiler, she put 6 wounds on the knight, actually. And even the lone up is very powerful if you position her right. The 12-inch lone up helps. Then I have a Warlock, a single Warlock, because I had 45 points left over, and he gives you -2 to wound and an extra Destructive Flamer. Then battle line, we have 2 defenders with the Bile Lances, 2 Storm Guardians with all extra weapons. Then 3 DCannon, which is very interesting, that most people don't have. Then we have unit of Dire Avengers, as mentioned, the Falcon, Howling Banshees, which is also important in this list because you need at least 1 or 2 units to fight first. Unit of Striking Scorpions for additional infiltrate and some melee punch, and 2 Warwalkers and a Warlock Conclave.
Okay. So that's where you're getting the -1 to wound, the Warlock Conclave right there. Interesting. Yeah, I think the list is pretty solid. You know, looking through this, I can see it, you know, and having tried Protector of the Paths, basically a couple days after you recommended it to me, it's fantastic. For lack of a, you know, better term, it's great. You wouldn't think so. You would think that, you know, oh, Guardians Overwatch isn't that great. But when you account for the fact that it's free, you're going to do it every single turn. And your Guardians are going to be coming in from reserve all the time. You know, they're going to be resurrecting. You can get them into great positions to really just stop your opponent dead in their tracks. And you have a big DCannon in the unit. Oh my God. It just changes the scope of what your opponent can do on the battlefield. So, very good enhancement, honestly. Very underrated.
Yeah, it's very, people oversee it, people don't look at it, and after you test it, after a few test games, for instance, the Space Wolf game, I can tell more later about it. He walked a tactical warsuit like 1 inch away from my unit, and I told him, I will overwatch you. I will overwatch for free. I will overwatch on the 4+. I have a DCannon in there and a Bright Lance. He said, no problem. It's okay, you know. He didn't believe how powerful it is. I popped in. I did like 16 damage to the thing, you know, and he was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean it's criminal almost. I mean, the guy I was playing against, he said the same thing. Okay, go ahead and overwatch him. I was like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." It just blew away half of his unit. And he's sitting there like, "Well, that's OP." You know, and it's like, what more can I do, right? I mean, it is a powerful enhancement. And you don't think about it at first, but it is. And then you have, of course, you have the 4 Guardian squads of Storms and Defenders, which is pretty standard for Guardian battle hosts. You need at least probably minimum 4 squads of Guardians. And then you have these 3 DCannons. So talk to me a little bit about those and how you use those to leverage your position on the battlefield.
Sure. I tell you first the idea behind it. I always loved DCannons. I had them in the Index. I had them even in my Inari and the play. I have at least 1 or 2 DCannons because I like them. So coming from AOS or other games, I don't like to trade necessarily. Some people like to play Eldar like this, but I like to have my units stay alive and still do damage. And this is why I like the DCannons. And I remember, before I explain to you what's the idea behind this, I remember when I showed up in the morning at the tournament, the 2 best players on the island, they looked at my list and they knew the matchup and they told me, you will not even kill 1 knight. They laughed about me, said, you don't have even a unit of fire dragons, no fire dragons, you will not kill a knight. And the more turns passed, the more silent they became when they looked at the table. So I'm a DCannon fan and lover, and let me explain to you what's the idea behind it. So I have 3D cannons. In my future list, I turn it down to 2 because in this particular list that we discussed, the third D-cannon is alone. It's not attached to any unit. And I need to babysit the D-cannon. So usually I have the Solitaire or the Banshees nearby. And this is reliability, which is not necessarily the best going forward. So, but in this list, I have 3 D-cannons. One is single, and another 2 are attached to the Guardian Defenders. One is attached to a naked Guardian Defender unit, and one with the Farseer and the good Overwatch, as we discussed. So there are 2 aspects of the D-cannon. Number 1 is the direct fire. The D-cannon in this detachment hits on a 2+. And you have D3 shots, blast. So even if you shoot in a unit of Terminators, let's say you have 6 Terminators, you have D3 plus 1. I sometimes even, if it's important, reroll the amount of shots because you have enough CPs usually in this detachment with Eldar. So I reroll the amount of shots, and usually you have 2 or 3. You hit on 2s, which is amazing. Then you wound the more things on 2s or 3s. You have also death wounds, which is a huge advantage, especially against other matchups where you have, let's say, 4-up invulnerable, 5-up invulnerable, Terminators. It just melts through. And the powerful thing against Knights was, and by the way, this list wasn't tailored. I didn't know that Knights would even show up in the tournaments, but against Knights, you can reroll all the wounds. Against other vehicles monsters, against anyone else, you can reroll once, but against Titanic models, you can reroll all the wounds, which is very, very powerful. So hitting on 2s, you do a lot of damage, strength 16, damage d6 plus 2. This is one aspect, because if you compare it to, let's say, other platforms we have, they're hitting on 3s usually. You have a Falcon, you have a Warwalker, and this attachment has also on 2s, but other platforms hits on 3s. You hit on 2s. And the second aspect is, which is also very interesting, is the threat range. So if you just hold back Proxy and don't move, and you just stay back, you have a threat range of 33 inches. So 31 over the token, 33 inches of threat range. So every game I remember, even against the 1000 Sun player, he asked me, okay, what's the threat range of the D-cannon? And they're always waiting for me to put the D-cannons down before they put in the Rhinos or the transport or vehicle. Because they know if I get turn 1, I don't even need to expose my units. I can just pop the transport or tanks like that.
Right, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, this kind of reminds me of the play style of D-cannons in the Index, where they were so feared that people had to stay out of their threat range. But now, even though we don't get the reroll hit, reroll wound, like you're saying, we get rerolls or we get +1 to hit. We get the, reroll wound stratagem. We get reroll damage rolls against, damage rolls of 1 against vehicles or monsters, or just, full rerolls damage against Titanic units. We're actually seeing a platform that can lift more than its points worth in, victory points by the end of the game, especially against Knights. So it's kind of a perfect answer to a lot of the problems that the meta is filled with right now, which is super tough, super durable stuff that's just going to stat check you, right? So that was interesting to me when you talked about that, and just the fact that your opponent really can't do anything about it because you're Guardian Battle Host. You have a lot of tricks to keep your D-cannon safe.
Exactly. That's the third aspect. I think the ideal in this detachment, because you have the protection of the Guardians, and usually they cannot, if you position them correctly, they cannot one-shot you. If you have the D-cannon alone, let's say walking alone in a battlefield, or it gets charged or it gets shot, it's dead. But in this case, even if they wipe 80%, 90% of the unit, you put them back into strategic reserve and you come back down, and you reposition at the same time the D-cannon for bad angles.
Right. And like you were saying before too, you just have consistent damage over the course of the game, whereas fire dragons, you're not going to have that, right? Fire dragons have to worry about several things, especially if you want to kill multiple big things in one turn. And I've heard players say this a lot. Proxy Hammer, how do you kill multiple big units in one turn when I only have one battle focus token for ignore Overwatch, right? And it's like, you don't really have a good answer to that, because if you throw 2 units of fire dragons up there and your opponent's good, they're going to have Overwatch threats against both units. You put a token on one, that unit's safe, they kill their target maybe. But the other fire dragon unit, gets toasted. So you can't realistically do that. You're not going to do that. You're going to just kind of try to, slowly trickle your fire dragons into play and just hope your opponent doesn't carry the game in primaries by the end of it. But DCannons answer this problem because they just deal consistent damage over the course of the game. Each one is on average going to be throwing out about 10 attacks, which is double the amount of attacks fire dragons are going to get. And you have, in this list you have 3 of them, but in your altered list you have 2 of them, and that's going to be 20 attacks over the course of 5 turns, and they're going to survive, hopefully, unless you make a mistake. And fire dragons are only, even 3 units of them are only going to be throwing out 15 attacks, which is not as many. And like you also said, you're also getting the advantage of, hitting better. You're not getting the rerolls necessarily to hit, but you're hitting on 2+. And then you're also getting the fact that their strength, what are they, strength 16, strength 14? Really high strength, 16. Yeah. So they're usually wounding stuff on 3s, which fire dragons need 5s. And you have those dev wounds, which with rerolls to wound, which can happen because you have that stratagem available every single turn that allows you to reroll wounds in this detachment, it could be pretty nasty, especially against invul saves.
It is. It's very powerful.
So yeah, I really like your list. I think it's really strong. You said you would get rid of a DCannon in a future iteration. What would you replace it with?
So let me tell you. So the new list, I removed the Warlock. I removed 1 DCannon. I also removed the Scorpions. I added second unit of the Conclave. Unfortunately, just a second instead of having a double one because I don't have the 20 points spare. And I put in Rangers and the Corsairs. I'm very keen to try, as you recommended.
Nice. Yeah, Corsairs are fun. Corsairs are a very fun unit. Very aggressive in the early game. Can really set the tempo on objectives and stuff like that, which is nice. An opponent basically having a unit of Corsairs strategically positioned means that your opponent can't just throw some scouts on an objective and hold it. So that's really nice.
One character I forgot. A second outright actually added also in the new list because I realized that I prefer sometimes to use the existing outright I have here with the Storm Guardians instead of the Banshees. But I really think that you need them with the Banshees to make the Banshees great. So that's why I have second outright, one for the Banshees, one for the Storm Guardians.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because autarchs are fantastic with Banshees, giving them that ability to get a free grenade, giving them a reroll to their advance roll, giving them, basically more inches on their battle focus maneuvers is really good. So, absolutely
And also
agree.
This detachment, the outright, the second outright with the Storm Guardians, we have this stratagem for automatic advance 6, and then you can still shoot and charge. So usually I advance 6, I shoot the 3 fusion guns, the flamers and everything they have, and then I charge, and he does a good punch as well. So it's great.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, I love this detachment for Storm Guardians. It just makes them so good. And I already love Storm Guardians, like in every list, but, in
Even in
this,
index, you like.
yeah, everything, man. I love them. I bring them in almost every list I run, man. Seer Council, I run them in. Spirit Conclave, I run them in everything. They're just good. Man. Okay, so tell me a little bit about the game you played. You played against Chaos Knights, and it was a pretty large victory in your favor.
It was. It was fun.
Run me through a little bit of that game and what happened. What did you use against your opponent? How did you, end up beating him?
Sure, let me do that. I just have few screenshots, so I don't remember every detail of every turn, but let me discuss what I remember and what I have. So first the deployment. So I was very fortunate that he had only, let's say, 6 big knights. I knew from looking at the list that he has one enhancement with one of his knights. He has an uppy downy, so he can go back into reserve and drop down. So what I did is I screened my back. I detached the outie for my banshees. So the banshees were alone, screening my back. Also the outie with the storm guardians, screened my backfield. And then what I did is I put the Scorpions on the left front to screen him out because I thought this is probably most likely where he will go first. And then I stringed. The plan was actually to string over 3 objectives, but I stringed a unit of Storm Guardians and the Warlock for the -2/2 charge over 2 objectives in the middle. And I moved all the special weapons and the Warlock to the left. So if the unit gets shots, they can, with a token, go to the left and get some cover and be safe. So there was the idea behind it. Fortunately, I got turn 1, which helped me a lot. But also, goes back to the planning. I knew exactly. I set it up this way that even if I don't get turn 1, the damage will be not too high. So if I would have received this, not the first turn, and the opponent would start first, I would have just lost the unit of Scorpions and half unit of my Storm Guardians. But fortunately, I got turn 1. So I screened everything forward. Then when I got to turn 1, I moved the Scorpions forward. I had 2 of the middle No Man's Land objectives stickied. I moved the Solitaire up as I planned in my pre-game planning. So she did Terraform, and yeah, other units I was holding back. The Falcon I was holding back. I was holding back the Warwalkers because I knew one shot they're dead. So they're more supportive units in this case. So I moved a little bit the naked DCannon on the left forward. Shot the second knight. I killed one knight, the one on the left in my turn. So yeah, this was my turn 1. And I also set up, very important, I set up my Overwatch defenders with the Farseer. And I also set it up in case I don't get turn 1. So even if I wouldn't get turn 1, he would need to walk his knights. He cannot just leave them there and don't do anything. So he would need to move one of the knights and walk into my Overwatch threat range. And this is also why it's so powerful to have this particular unit with infiltrate. So I did what I just said for turn 2. So in turn 2, he walked into my Overwatch trap, and I was very lucky. So I think I CP rerolled 1 to hit roll or the amount of shots, and I brought down one knight to 6 wounds. So I did combined 20 damage to one of the knights. So this was in his turn 1. Yeah, please let me have some water.
Yeah, no, that's just insane to me. I think what's incredible and the big takeaway from this is that a lot of Eldar armies, when they go first, they don't kill anything, right? Especially the armies that I typically run, I don't really kill anything besides maybe some infiltrators turn 1. So the fact that you were able to bring down a whole knight with your list just, I think, speaks volumes about how powerful the DCannon can be in the current meta.
Exactly. So yeah, so I remember what I did is I had turn 1. So I moved the Farseer unit with him because he had the army ability to give me -1 to hit if I'm outside of 18. So even I think my Warwalker got then the +1 to hit that, where he had the -1 to hit from the thing. So the first turn went very well, and I screened everything up even more. And the advantage is also with this list, he has no small knights. He has big knights who can go over my models, but the bases are so big. So if you position your models correctly and string them correctly, he cannot place his models down.
Yeah, that is a weakness of the bigger knight lists. I mean, anybody out there wondering, how do I stop the big knights from just rampaging throughout my army? Just place your rangers, scorpions, swooping hawks, warp spiders, whatever you got. Place them in a position where the knights will have to end their move on top of your unit, or just not move at all, right? And that's the way to screen them out.
So let's talk quickly about turn 2. So on turn 2, he had only left 3 knights, actually, end of turn 2. He killed half my unit, or 90% of my defender unit Farseer, and I put some wounds on the DCannon, so the DCannon was left of 1 wound, but survived. I moved everything up. I knew he will not come down in the backfield, so I moved even the Banshees up for screening or whatever. And yeah, so end of turn 2, he had only 3 guys left.
I just laugh at that because that must have sucked for him, talking crap about you not having any fire dragons. You're not even going to kill one knight, and then end of turn 2, half of his army's gone.
To his defense, it wasn't him saying this. It was the pro players next table to us. They
Oh,
were laughing
fun.
at me.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't have fire dragons. You will lose. You will not kill even one knight. It was funny. So yes, to sum it up, so turn 1, 1 knight died. Turn 2, 2 knights died. Turn 3, another 2, so 5 in total. And by turn 4, he was dead.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
That's-
Yeah, I think that's really really funny that they said that. I mean, the cool thing about Warhammer, especially nowadays, is that there's so much unit diversity, and I know that I sometimes on this channel complain about internal balance not being exactly where it should be. I think that's true of basically every codex, but there are some, crazy strategies that you can and crazy combos you can pull off with the Eldar Codex. And I think we honestly have one of the best, most well written codexes in the entire game. I know that it might not be the most powerful, but it certainly rewards players for putting thought into their list building and their play, you know? So, yeah, that's incredible. I think you're going to see a
Yeah,
lot more D-cannons being run in competitive play now.
it's me too. I hope so. I hope so. And you need to think different, And you need to think different. Sometimes it works out. This list also struggles with other things. I can talk about another few games I had if you don't mind. So I had in
Yeah,
total
please.
6 games. So I have 50% win rate, which sounds funny. I lost 3, I won 3. So the first one was against Asmo Mitaro in one training match before the tournament, and it was, to be honest, an easy game, an easy win. It was a tank detachment. I forgot the name. But as you can see, if it works against knights, it will also work against tanks. The second one was the night game, as I mentioned, and then the third game was against Genius Stealer Colt. It was the Outlander Claw. So he started with 23 units, then got 5 bags, in total 28 units. But I need to say, this kid is smart. He's OTO, he has a PhD. I never won against the Genius Stealer Colt. He's so good with his army. But you can also see that it's army dependent because he also played Rukari against me and his guard, and I won those games. But we struggle somehow in the Gen Skill Cold, or at least I cannot play them. Then the next game in the tournament I lost was also against Thousand Suns. Coven, very good player. I didn't prepare much. I didn't screen. I was too aggressive. So against Thousand Suns, we can win. Also with this list, because he don't have much melee. He has more shooting, but you cannot do any mistakes. There's no room for error. Then my 5th game was against Space Wolves, and it was interesting, but I got slaughtered. He had, I think, 12 of those wolf cavalry, and one of the units, I think, was enhancement or stratagem. In one turn, or he can move 21 inches and then charge. And the thing is about Eldari, or at least how I play them, I don't want to get pressured. You don't want to get pressured turn 1. You don't want to have a big blob with 4 up invulnerable and 4 wound in your face, screening you, tagging you. This is what we don't like. So I lost this game as well. And the last game was against Sisters. Was actually quite balanced, and Sisters are more tanky than I expected with some miracle dice. And it was a great game, but he lost on primary because he didn't have infiltrate. I infiltrated, I had control of the board, and I won the game as well.
Interesting. Yeah, sisters are a little tricky. It is a very balanced, well balanced matchup between sisters and Eldari, but man, those miracle dice, if they're rolling hot on 6s, and it's
Yeah.
hard to do the work without some sort of way to ignore invulnerable saves. But you had that with the D cannons.
Yeah, it
So
was good. It was fun.
that's interesting. Let me ask you about your Space Wolves game, because this is actually something that I think we're going to see obviously a lot more of. Space Wolves are a very
Yeah,
competitive army right now. We're going to see them just kind of, I think, in my honest opinion, I think they're going to explode into the meta, and they're going to start
exactly.
dominating people once they really get going. But what do you think about that matchup? And what would you do differently in your game to stop them from using those 12 Thunderwolves to really
Let me
dominate the
think.
battlefield?
He had 2 in reserve. So he had big unit of 6, then 3 and 3, and then he had 2 blobs of those. I forgot the name. Sorry, the guys with the shields and 3 wounds. 2 times 10, and then he had the
Sure.
naked dudes with the shields. I also
Mhm.
forgot the names. Then he
I
had 2
think
tactical.
Wolfen, right? Wolfen are the naked dudes.
Yeah, it's guys are wolfen.
Yeah.
Then he had 2 Invictor tactical war suits. Then he had the big tank with the Space Wolves Tech Marine, who gave them sustained, I think, or sustained, yeah. Or rapid fire 1 or something. So this tank was crazy. So what I would do different to answer your question, I would screen different. I would not put my Autar into the Storm Guardian unit. I would use it just for screen. I would use the Ranger unit just for screen, because he cannot go to walls with his cavalry. He cannot go over my models. He has no fly. So he has to go to my screens. So I would screen as much as I can, keeps his guys backward, and be more passive than aggressive. I was aggressive, I hoped for the first turn. But yeah, they're very powerful, and it's very tough to shoot to those guys. So the D-cannons help because invulnerable save 4-ups, you just go 2. And if you have the unit of 6, you get +1 because of blast. But to be honest, it's a very, very powerful army. And this guy is an Australian guy, I told you, who's the best Space Marines player on the island, so it didn't help.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a bad combo of things, right? Really powerful army, really good player. Like,
Exactly. And no preparation. It was new for me. It was first time against new Space Wolves. I
yeah,
think if you prepare, if you study his list and play more passive and careful, I think it's doable.
yeah, absolutely. Interesting. Did he end up winning the tournament by any chance, or who ended up winning the whole thing?
Let me think. There was, I think, the first guy was playing. It's Ryan. He's the best player on the island. He plays actually demons. He has 60 pings and he is amazing. He did first place. The second place was Genistilla Colts guy, I think.
Hmm.
The Space Wolf player did the third place, and the Thousand Sun guys were fourth.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, I mean, think of it this way: you only lost against the people who placed, right?
I,
Who podiumed. So I think you did a really good job with this list, and I think it speaks volumes about how sometimes it's it's not about what's meta. It's not about, okay, fire dragons are, auto include in your army. You take them no matter what. Sometimes it's about thinking about other solutions to common problems, and I think this list does that perfectly.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's great. It's a good list for this detachment. And the thing is with lists is this particular list, it's done, it's fixed 90 to 95%. So I always have 100 points I play around with, and the rest is always fixed. And you need like approximately, maybe someone said in an interview, you need to have 10 games before you lock down your list. So I need a few more. But I really enjoy it. And I also enjoy it. I don't know. I like it when my D cannons have 3 shots and then hit 3 times with indirect. You roll 3 times 4-up, and it's just a great feeling. And then pop something. I like this feeling. I like playing like that. And this detachment helps me actually to
Yeah,
manifest it.
absolutely, for sure. Yeah, roll that. It's so good. It's such a good feeling when you roll that like 5 or 6 for your D cannon shots, and you're like, yes, 3 attacks,
Yes.
like hitting on 2s and wounding on 3s or 2s with Eldrad, and just totally
Mm,
wiping something off the face of the earth. That is pretty awesome. I mean, we don't have fate dice anymore, but God, that still feels good to just roll that. Really
it's fun.
does.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
In the face of the opponent, when you, even if you just shoot them indirect, you roll like 5 or 6, you have 3 attacks, and you roll like 4 times 4-up, 3 times 4-up, and he's like, you hit me in indirect 3 times, and then in addition to put salt in his wound, you roll a 6 to wound, and he's like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is, it's Warhammer, right? Like, you don't expect to do that with every roll, but when it happens, it does feel good. We all have to admit
That's,
that. It does feel good to roll high, you know?
that's why we love
Um,
this game, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I think, honestly, I would only enjoy the game half as much as I do now if everything was just based on averages.
Mm,
It wouldn't have
exactly.
the same amount of enjoyment. Like, I use averages in a lot of my games to prepare myself against different unit matchups and what my units are good at taking out. But I'm going to be honest, there's nothing quite like rolling 5-5 or 5-6s with a Zerman for his mini free
Yeah,
turn.
it's amazing.
Right? Like rolling a Yahtzee and then just totally blowing something away. Totally unexpected. You didn't expect it. You didn't think it would happen, but there it is. There's 5-6s staring at you in the face. I mean, that's really fun. So,
For Proxy, it also goes both ways. I remember I played against the local knight player, another one before the Codex with the mini knights, and he's
mhm.
rolling his invulnerable saves 5-ups, 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 and it goes both ways.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. It absolutely does. Yeah, I've made quite a few players upset with my Dark Eldar or Eldar just rolling 5-up, 6-up invulnerables. You have 6 saves to make. Oh, 5 of them are 5s, and it's like, that should not have happened, but it does, sometimes it happens.
True.
All right, Mike. Do you have anything else you want to say about the list or about the detachment or just any other insights you have for players who want to get into Guardian Battle Host or perhaps are looking for some insights into how to play Eldar in general?
Let me think for a second. Yeah, regarding the battle host, I had even some people asking in the Facebook group, how to start, and I told them some things are you shouldn't say auto include because even as you mentioned, fire dragons should be auto include, but I think at least two decannons they should try. Maybe even the combination with Azurman and the the Dire Avengers, one or two War Walkers ideally too. So use the units that are made for the detachment, and then the rest is flavor, what you enjoy. And try the detachments. There are probably also a lot of your listeners who never tried the detachment, because they play Aspect or Warhost. But now after Yunari is nerfed, I think it's a good thing to try. Seer console also many people play. I find it a bit complicated to be honest, and I find the Guardian Battle Host more straightforward. So yeah, just if you have the models, if you don't have the models, proxy them,
Right.
proxy them out and have games in, and try it out. And either you like it or don't, but at least give it a shot.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Well, thank you for your advice. And I think it's something a lot of players should take to heart because I think it's solid advice. And thank you, Mike, for coming on. Congratulations again on a pretty stunning victory against Chaos Knights. I think that shows the community that you don't necessarily need fire dragons in every single list. There's other ways to take out big stuff, right?
Thanks. Thanks, Proxy.
And absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. And I just want to say, to everybody listening, thank you so much for continuing to support the channel. If you do want to support the channel further, you can always join the Patreon. Also, just for you guys out there that are tired of seeing a bunch of YouTube ads, I've basically started posting my videos up on Patreon ad free for members of the Patreon. So check that out if you want some ad free videos. And if you're wondering how to do that, just sign up for the Patreon and you will get access as well to our Discord community, which is a community that Mike is a part of. I'm a part of course, as a creator, and there's a bunch of other players who are, active members of the community who go to tournaments and are really skilled Eldar players if you are seeking advice. So, yeah, join us. And that's it, everybody. I'll see you later, Mike, and have a good one.
See ya.
Peace out.